Okay, this is actually really interesting. I've been testing this. It's the new ASUS TUF Dash F15 for a couple of weeks now. You may have seen my video from a few days ago where I basically explained this little sticker down here because this is one of the first gaming laptops to come with Intel's new H35 processors. It's basically the same chip that you get in an ultrabook like the Dell XPS 13, but souped up to draw 35 watts of power, which they've put in this thin and light gaming laptop paired with an RTX 3070. But what's really interesting is that I've actually also been testing this guy. It's the TUF Gaming A15. A is for AMD, F is for Intel, obviously. Also the Dash models, so we've got the Dash F15 here, is their slightly thinner and lighter, a little bit sleeker versions of the gaming variants, which are, well, a bit more traditional gaming laptops, thicker, bulkier, chunkier bezels, but actually more powerful. So while you could argue that this is a whole new kind of thin and light format of gaming laptops, for me, it feels more like a stopgap until we get Intel's proper H45 series in the next month or so. To be quite honest, I've already summed up why I probably wouldn't buy this. I would wait for H45 or, realistically, just go for a gaming laptop with a Ryzen 5000 series. But that's not to say there's anything wrong with this at all. It's still a fantastic gaming laptop, and considering the TUF Dash 15 starts at just £1,000, although that gets you the RTX 3060 and a 144Hz screen, this guy is about £1,500, which comes with a 240Hz screen, RTX 3070, it's the 85 watt TDP variant. Well, it's actually 80 watts, but we're getting a plus 5 watts ROG boost. So this is actually one of the lowest powered 3070s you'll get in a laptop, but it's because they've squeezed it into this chassis, which is just 19.9 millimeters thick. It weighs 2 kilograms, so the same as my Dell XPS 15. The performance we're getting from this is still quite impressive, given just how thin and light it is.
Planted a hole in him!
And one of the comments that came up a lot in my H35 explainer video, I do read all your comments, I promise, was why go for this when you could go for maybe a Comet Lake laptop? That's 10th gen Intel, not the new 11th gen H45, but why would you go down to a 4-core 8-thread chip in here when there are last year's 8-core 16-thread versions? Well, you're basically getting some new next-gen features. We've got PCIe 4 support, also 4-lane PCIe 4, so you can plug in an eGPU with less bandwidth issues. We're also getting Thunderbolt 4 support with a Type-C, and also it supports NVIDIA's resizable bar, which is always a pain to explain, but it's basically better memory management between the CPU and the GPU. So we're getting some nice 11th gen Intel features in this, which you don't get in the Comet Lake H-series laptops. Intel do boldly state that this should give you the fastest single-threaded performance on any gaming laptop right now. But how does this 35-watt quad-core processor and the 85-watt 3070 stack up when it comes to actually playing games? Well, in 3 of the 6 games I tested, we are hitting triple digits. In fact, really, it's just Cyberpunk holding it back with a 42 FPS average, but that is with Ray Tracing Ultra settings. And actually, if you turn off RT, that jumps up to 55. And I ran all those tests with this set to turbo mode, which I can't currently do because it's not plugged in. But in the Armory Crate, you can go between Windows, Silent, Performance, and Turbo. But generally, I keep it on Turbo just to get the best performance. And actually, it never got particularly loud or even that hot. And actually, that's one of the biggest issues I had with the TUF lineup last year. But the good news is ASUS have listened, and across the TUF range, well, in their entire 2021 gaming laptop range, cooling thermals are much better than before. And that is in part due to the better airflow, but also the more sensible choice of components, because what we're seeing this year is ASUS have made this their Dash thin and light laptop with a lower power 35 watt CPU, and also they've gone for one of the lower TGP 3070s. So they've been able to really smartly pick the components for this kind of chassis to give them the performance and the battery life and the thermal performance that you'd want. And so for this thin and light gaming form factor, it is making a difference, and paired with the better design, this is a much better all-around gaming laptop. We're also getting a 240Hz refresh rate screen, it's got a 3 millisecond response time, and it also supports adaptive sync. My biggest issue with it is it just doesn't get that bright. I measured a peak of about 280 nits, which I would say is below average, and also you're not going to get any kind of HDR out of this at all. So it's not the end of the world, particularly if you're gaming in a, well, reasonably low lit environment, which I suspect most people would be, but I would like to see a brighter screen. Also, as you can see, we do have these very nice and thin bezels around the screen, but As you can see, there is also now no room for a webcam, which, well, I mean, gaming laptop webcams have always been pretty terrible, but it's better than nothing, I suppose. But it is something it lacks compared to the regular A15 here, or the F15, which does have a webcam, albeit with chunkier bezels. The keyboard and trackpad are also lovely to use. It is backlit, but it's not RGB. You just get the one color option here, which is a bit of a shame. But you've got these fancy transparent WASD keys, which is quite a cool touch. And also this much bigger precision touchpad is smooth and just lovely to use. I mentioned the Thunderbolt 4 port earlier, but we actually have a really good range of I/O with this. We've got a full-size HDMI 2.0B, we've got 3 USB 3.2 Gen 1s, a RJ45, headphone and mic combi port, as well as a USB 4 Thunderbolt 4 port, which just makes it a bit more future-proof really. And also if you do decide to plug in an eGPU with this, which I'm not sure how many people would do that, I mean the 3070 is pretty good already, but I would worry you'll be bottlenecked a little bit by that 35-watt quad-core processor. I say 35 watt, but I have actually measured this go as high as 60 watt, albeit only briefly. So that does kind of show that the big selling point of 11th gen Intel processors is just how scalable they are. As I say, they're using the same chip in ultrabooks like the XPS 13 and also in gaming laptops like this. And eventually, with their H45 coming soon, they are incredibly scalable. And while it does say 35 watts on the tin, it really can vary quite significantly based on what you're doing. And as I say, I've seen up to 60 watts being drawn. In terms of battery life, we're actually getting a 76 watt hour cell in here, which isn't the biggest. A lot of laptops now have 90 or even 99 watt hour batteries, but paired with the slightly lower power specs in the rest of the laptop, battery life is pretty decent. After an hour of YouTube, the F15 still had 86% of its battery left, and you can expect around 7 hours of light non-gaming use from this. And we're also getting ASUS's new, smaller 200 watt power adapter. It really is pretty small. And actually this supports fast charging, so you can get about 50% of your battery in just half an hour of charging. But it does also support power delivery through the Type-C port if you prefer, and if you don't want to carry this with you, although it's pretty small anyway, so it's not really a big deal. Now, if we open this up, in terms of upgradability, we're actually getting 2 PCIe 3 SSD slots. One is already filled with either the 512 gig or 1 terabyte stick, depending on which spec you went for. But you do have this second M2 slot available if you want to upgrade it. And also, as you can see, we've got upgradable RAM up to a max of 32 gigabytes. How tough is this laptop? Because, well, it's in the name, even though they're spelling it different, TUF. But I can tell you from accidentally dropping it in my video last week onto my hardwood floor from desk height, no damage, no scuffs at all. It's actually pretty durable. But the problem is, and this is the last time I'm going to reach over and bring this in, I promise, but I think I would just rather buy this. This is the TUF Gaming A15 versus the Dash F15, and while it does weigh 300 grams more than this, it's also about 4 millimeters thicker. It does feel a little bit cheaper and less premium than this. Overall, considering it's the same price, when it comes to gaming laptops, the priority for me, and I'm pretty sure you guys as well, is performance. And with this, we're getting a 95 watt TGP 3070, so an extra 10 watts of power over what we're getting in the Dash. And also, more importantly, I think, we're getting the Ryzen 7 5800H, which is an 8-core, 16-thread chip. And in some games, like Hitman, I measured this, giving us an extra 26% performance. In Rainbow Six Siege, it was 18% faster. The only game where the Intel came out on top was in Wolfenstein, where it was 3% faster. But wait, before you grab your pitchforks and head to the comments saying that that's not a fair test, well, you're absolutely right. As I say, higher TGP, bigger chassis, so better airflow, and also the higher power 45 watt CPU versus 35 watt. These are not quite like for like laptops, but I do just want to bring you back to some synthetic benchmarks I ran between the two, just testing the processor. While in both cases, the Intel did win in single core, the Ryzen thrashed it in multi-core with an average of a 60% boost over the Intel. So take those with a little pinch of salt because it's not like for like, but it is indicative of the extra performance that you're going to get with a higher power 45 watt chip. And it just strikes me that if you're going to buy a gaming laptop right now, while you may want a slightly sleeker, smaller, sort of ultra portable gaming laptop, I reckon for most of us, performance is the most important. So while this may carve out a small new category of ultra portable gaming laptops, I'm just not convinced that paying $1,000 or $1,500 for something like this with a 4-core processor, which is probably going to be usurped by the H45 series in the next couple of months anyway, isn't the best idea. I would suggest sticking with the Ryzen 5000 series. I think you're just getting more for your money, and in games that are optimized for more cores, we're getting up to sort of 20-25% better performance. And of course, it's also going to come in handy if you're streaming or multitasking or using this as a bit of a workstation for video editing or rendering. In conclusion, for my review of the TUF Dash F15, I would actually just go and buy the gaming A15 instead, if that helps. But I will leave links to both of these guys in the description below if you want to check them out. And also let me know what you make of these in the description below. Do you agree with me? Do you think I couldn't be more wrong? Either way, let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you do want to see more from me, then don't forget to hit that little subscribe button below and ding that bell and give me a thumbs up and all that stuff. And I'll catch you next time right here on the Tech Chat.